Hey fellow adventurers, welcome back to another episode of Hell for Dummies. All of the loot that I get during these runs, every single piece of gold equipment or key that I get, I give away on my Twitch channels on random days each week. The link is in the description below, be sure and check that out. Also, be sure to like and subscribe the video because the developers are constantly making changes to the game, and if you'd like me to keep making tutorials like this as the content changes, liking and subscribing is going to allow me to do that. I am going to be showing my approach all the way through the Ruins layer into the Crypts layer and onward into the Inferno with our level 1 character as always. Just for posterity to show that we can do it, you can do it, I can do it, anyone can do it. It doesn't take much skill, just a bit of map knowledge and a lot of being careful. So if you just want to see the Inferno strats, go ahead and skip to around the 12-minute mark in this video. That shouldn't come as a surprise to people who are familiar with this series so far. Otherwise, I am going to be talking about some maybe intermediate strats or things that you might not know about the Crypt and the Ruin layer, but the earlier videos in the series do have more beginner tips if you want to check those out. So I always suggest having a little bit of range when you get to Hell. So what that translates into for me as a fighter with weapons mastery is I really want just any bow of any kind whatsoever. If you're a barbarian in particular, like every other class has range besides the barbarian, probably bring at least a couple of Francesca axes in order to kite like singular enemies out so you don't have to deal with large hordes of enemies all at the same time, or like multiple groups of like enemies all at the same time, because that's going to make the entire situation down in the Inferno like a lot more tenuous. And that's like the biggest piece of advice I can give for barbs. Like rogues have access to the hand crossbow. Every single other class has some sort of range that they can use. And that's just the price that you pay for hitting hardest at melee distance out of any class. You're going to have to, like if you main barb, you're just going to have to get mechanically insane with the barb. But I am not a barb main myself, so I'm not going to be showing like a ton of strats that don't rely at least partially on range. If you want that, there are some tutorials out there that are really good, but I do believe that I cover like a touch on those melee strats quite a bit in my videos. It's just not the focus, so just be warned in that regard. So now that the map has been updated and you have to go through the Ruins layer before you get into the Crypt layer, we're going to be like really careful when we're in the Crypt layer not to roam too much, even though we're going to be, you know, getting as much loot as possible. What you saw me do there was actually unload my bow as I picked it up, because each bow comes with like a clip, you could say, of 10 arrows, because each bow has a separate quiver. You could think of each one like a gun with its own clip. So if you find bows that you're not even going to use, you can still pick up the bow, fire all of the arrows out of it, and then pick up all those arrows for extra ammo. If you crouch at people like you're seeing me do here, that means like, let's be friends, let's be chill. Just give everybody that kind of side eye though. This guy turned out to be really funny. We actually hung out. He was like, I'm Lantern Man, and you know, we hung out and we traded gear and stuff. And when you roll together two people, like the devs tried to dissuade people, I think, from teaming, but like the only thing that's really illegal is pre-teaming. So me and this guy were not teamed up in the lobby before the game, and honestly 100% there's no denying that if you team up with other people in solos, like you're gonna have a way higher survival rate. You're going to be a lot safer to roam and break boxes and stuff. And the way to actually get AP, which is your rank in this game, and level up your AP, is to break boxes, loot, and leave the dungeon with as many sellables as possible. Some good tips are, if you have a 1x1 little like trinket that's blue, it's going to give you as much AP as a purple sellable, not sellable, a purple piece of equipment. So each trinket that you have is going to be like a step up AP wise in rarity from the equipment that you can pick up. And that's like not exactly, like the math doesn't exactly line up, but that's basically like where it's at. So that's a good rule of thumb, is you want to be picking up sellables, like everything that you can sell to the collector, as opposed to equipment if you're grinding AP. The most recent update to the game, equipment actually gives you a lot more AP than it used to. So a tip, if you're trying to grind like pure AP, even if you have better equipment, try to replace all of the equipment that you're wearing while you're in the dungeon, as well as picking up as much equipment as possible in the dungeon, and like putting it in your inventory, like as many sellables and equipment, whatever you can get. You want to eventually replace all of your equipment with more sellables, and that's going to give you your highest AP gain. But like if you equip all of the items that you find and eventually drop all of the equipment that you came in with, then you're going to gain AP for all of that equipment that you equipped. So it might sound obvious, but yeah, all of that equipment that you leave the dungeon wearing that you actually found in the dungeon is going to give you even more AP. So that's massive if you're actually on the AP grind. That dude also dropped a bunch of potions for me because I told him I was going to go to hell, and that's another big plus of like teaming, you know. I think some people like frown upon teaming, but I mean, if you're allowed to play the game however you want, then I'm going to play the game however I want, and that's making friends in the dungeon. I just have a lot of fun meeting people and being friendly. You can see my mood has shifted entirely compared to how it was at the very beginning of the match when I was tilted because of, you know, getting PK'd over and over and over again. So that's kind of nice. Just trying to think. So this is, like I said, it's a level 1 character, but really I think I was trying to get this character to level 15. So the way I emulate that is that each time I take him into the dungeon, I just leave him with one perk. You can see when I open my inventory, I just have one perk on, and that is the same as having a level 1 character. The only thing right now, because this is still like the testing, open testing that they've been having for a while, that you get when you level up is every 5 levels you unlock a perk. So that's kind of cool. And so by just leaving one perk on, I'm technically just like the same power level as a level 1. The one perk that I choose to take on the fighter is weapons mastery, so that I can use ranged options. So that's massive. And I'm basically just showing my approach into hell at this point, the entire approach to hell, just for posterity, to show that we make it with a level 1 character, that you can make it with a level 1 character, that once you kind of know how to fight each enemies, sorry, that was plural, but once you know how to fight each enemy, you can just take the dungeon one enemy at a time. The safest way to do it is to just kite one enemy out at a time. Use the safe area that you have behind you, even if you don't know the dungeon layout entirely. Use the safe area that you have behind you to just keep kiting the enemies back. You can see there what I did with the hand crossbow is the same thing I did with the bow. I just unloaded the solitary bolt that was in the hand crossbow so that I have extra ammo for my hand crossbow. Having a lot of ranged ammunition once I get down into the Inferno is going to be really important, just for my play style. If you find that you're comfortable fighting things melee distance, there's a few guides out there for how to fight all the different Inferno mobs as well, that you can watch. But as far as the cheeses that I show in this video, they are useful for ranged and melee. Picking up these Shrine of Protections is pretty huge. You saw at the very beginning of the game when I was in the Ruins lair, I went and checked out that castle, and that castle sometimes has a Skelly Champ in it. I always farm the Skelly Champs because there's a chance that they drop a golden key, which is something that only the Skelly Champ himself and then all of the Inferno bosses drop. It's an extremely rare drop and is currently the highest form of currency in the game. It's worth like 20 gold ingots on top of a couple of like gold powder or cookies or something. So it's worth very, very much. I think something like 1,800 gold or something is what it translates to. Let me think about that. It's actually 1,800 gold. No, it's more like 6,000 gold is what that translates to. My bad. Not 1,800. Yeah, so it's worth a lot. If you've never seen a golden key, that's probably because you're not farming the Skelly champions. Got to be frank about that. So start farming those Skelly champions, learn where they are, always run directly to them and try to farm them. So yeah, there's another Skelly champ when you get this map layout. In the center, it's called the wheel. This whole outer walkway goes around the Skelly champ like room, and that center area is really it's just ridden with enemies. But I don't think I'd do it in this video, but what you can do is you can go from any door in. There's going to be an average of like 2 death heads, those flying death skulls that flap around that'll aggro you, as well as like a couple of footmen and like 1 archer. And if you basically cut a line straight from the door into the center directly to the center room, you can basically deal with just the 2 death heads and the 1 archer, as long as you stick directly to the middle of the path leading into the room with the Skelly champion. If you stray off to either side, you're going to end up aggroing a footman. This room right here as well, it just looks like a rectangle with some stairs around the sides. Also has a chance of having a Skelly champion. If it has a wraith in it, like I saw there, then there isn't going to be a Skelly champion, so I decide that it's just not worth my time. I'm going to go keep looking around for just other loot that'll help me survive the Inferno. So yeah, that's the big piece of advice. Always farm the Skelly champion, and you can get keys. What's kind of fun about these death heads too is if you get like a whole horde of them and then you just go hang out on the opposite side of a corner so that they're flying at you but into the corner so they can't hit you, they'll all murder each other, which is useful in several rooms. So I look over here, I see that there's a dead man, kind of unfortunate for our friend, but we're gonna go ahead and loot that body up, because why wouldn't we? I kind of wanted to go in here and check for the champion. You can't see my map, and you can thank Stream Snipers for that. Since I recorded this video, I've actually taken that countermeasure away and I've added opacity to my map. But here's, I guess, the final tip on the way into the Inferno is if you think you're the last one in the dungeon, there's no reason not to rest before you head to the next layer. Because the second that you head into that portal, the timer to enter the next layer is going to, if you're the last one, just not even run. It's just going to instantly send you to the next layer. So if you have time to rest before you actually head through the portal, take advantage of that. And yeah, just rest before you head through the portal. It's kind of a niche little tactic to use. You can see there's no timer here. It instantly just flips me to the next floor. All right, perfect. So now let's talk hell strats. Okay, so the spawn that we got, I have covered escaping from in another video. You basically have to just deal with the 1 zombie before you can run out, and you can either wait for a good cycle or you can kite him into this room and then punch him in the face and then lock the door on him. You don't have to punch him in the face. Anyway, the room that we're about to go into, there's multiple safe paths through if you're just going to run through. Remember that the bottom floor is completely safe, save for the 2 enemies that are in here. This room is called Skeleton Bridge. It looks like an H on the map. So the 2 enemies on the ground floor won't even get up if you give them a wide berth. And remember that each of these downed pillars, which you can also see on the map, they have a minion right at the base of them. So the lowest part of the pillar has a minion at the base. So as long as you run through the room in a manner, and I'll leave it to you to improvise exactly the manner in which you run through the room, that gives each of these minions a wide berth, you will not aggro either of them, and then you have a pretty safe path through the room. Now I realize that a room I need to cover is over at the top of this through the other way. And the only thing I really have to worry about when coming up through here are the 2 footmen at the top. You don't ever have to deal with the archers at the top of each of the towers if you're just running through the room. However, in kind of parallel to the 2 footmen at the bottom, there's also a footman at the top of the ramps, like on each walkway, in the center of the walkways between the towers. So I'll put images up on the screen for all of what I just talked about. So you can avoid either aggroing the footman on the ground or aggroing the footman at the top, and this room is rather easy to just run through and not aggro anything. However, I came through it in one direction and then realized I had to double back and go a different direction, so I ended up having to deal with the footman. I also got sniped in my head at one point because I went too high up on the pillar. If you want to see all the safe strats for this room, go ahead and check it out in the Blood Bridge episode. Okay, so the room that I'm about to go into, I have covered in another video, but only briefly, and I wanted to cover how to actually get the chest in it, because that's what we care about. We care about getting the treasure from each room, not just escaping with nothing and like being like, whoo, we made it. So normally when you spawn in this room, you spawn in the doorway adjacent to the room, or the doorway that I come through, but the strat remains the same. The first thing you're going to see me do is snipe this pot. That's actually super important. It gives you a lot of room to move around in the upper walkway, and when you come from the other angle, a lot of times you won't get hit from this foot minion, but expect that you're going to have to tank at least one hit from this foot minion, especially if it's an axeman or a spear minion. Also expect that when it swings at you, it's going to come off of the edge here, which happens very frequently. Now, something to note is if you're standing on the middle step, there's 3 steps here. The step I was just on, the middle step is the one I'm on right now, and the bottom step. So if you're standing on the upper step or the middle step, the enemies are going to pathfind onto the upper step. If you're standing on the lowest step, the enemies are going to pathfind down into the blood below you, which entails walking all the way around the tower. If that door isn't open to my right, then the enemies obviously won't be able to walk through it, and you can just kind of like snipe everything. However, if you're melee, you can bait them into lunging off of that step, and they will get trapped on the middle step, and then you can just kind of like bait back and forth from the top step while you hit them. The important part there, I know that was probably really confusing sounding, is to bait enemies into swinging so they lunge off onto the middle step, which you'll see me do to some of the other enemies here. But that's basically it. So I do cover right here. I show you can kite the enemy back towards the doorway, and I do tink on the door frame because I'm an idiot. But this is the melee strat for it. If I didn't have a bow, I'd want to just kind of take it slow, take it safe, with all my attacks apparently, and not actually be able to hit him. But yeah, I'm a ranged player, so I've already run the map timer almost halfway through, so I decided I'm just going to consistently like show the fast strats. But if you spawn here, you're going to have all the time in the world to kite that guy back just far enough so that he's like kind of sniping into the wall, peek around the corner and hit him. So that's pretty cool. Remember that there's 2 archers on that upper walkway. There's one kind of further on you can see, and don't forget about this foot minion right here. You can see his electric shield. Also, I'm going to say it again, I'm going to say it a million times. Anything that's electric in hell, if you hit the electric part, it's going to reflect your damage back at you, and you're going to be like, why am I dying? It's because you hit the electric part. I know this is very information packed, just try to bear with me, this is all useful advice. So the order of operations in this room is going to be exceedingly important, because the second you start walking across that upper area, I've noticed that these nightmare death heads, the second they have line of sight to you, they like to instantly come after you. So before you clear anything else, you're going to clear these nightmare death heads. Now the strat for these guys is pretty simple, but also kind of hard to master, so practice it a few times and don't be sad if you die. You strafe laterally to them, keep track of where they land, and try to be somewhere where you have a little bit of distance from them when they land, because they will immediately boost again. Be watching them, because if you are strafing, you move at the same speed as if you're walking forward. So you can look at them the entire time and not lose any speed. If you have enough distance to them when they land the first time and they immediately boost again, you can just continue strafing and repeat the first strafe, basically. That second death head is worth always cheesing on that lamp. He can always get stuck there if you just bait him into the correct spot. Try to look at him through the lamp, he'll fly straight at you and he'll get stuck in that corner. So once we've taken out the archer at the top, so that we don't get aggroed by the archer while we're trying to fight a death head, we can take care of the death heads. This is the order. And then we can come up here and start focusing on the rest of the mobs in this room. From here, the hard part is over, because the death heads are done and we remembered to do them second. That's the most important thing. You do not want to get aggroed by those death heads while you're focusing on the rest of the room. So now we can just take each minion, and if it's something we feel comfortable with, like fighting, we can just fight it on that upper step. Or we can bait it into swinging and attacking and going onto that second down step. Now remember, there is a hellbat roosting on the roof up there somewhere. I don't know exactly where he is. I try to snipe him down, but I can't get him. And there is a hellbat below you as well, roosting underneath the bridge. This is a very mob dense room. Always think 2 or 3 times before you make any move in this room. In fact, I'm pretty sure what happens here is I aggro the mummy that comes out of the blood below me here, and I have to take him out. But if you walk up onto that bridge, this nightmare bat is going to spawn and come after you, and if you walk just a step further, there's a centaur in the back that can come after you and another nightmare bat. So if you have a shield for these hellbats, what you can do is crouch, look up at a 45-degree angle, and fit one attack between every single one of their attacks. If you do not have a shield, take him onto the upper step and try to side strafe at a 45-degree angle away from him every time he attacks. And you just want to fight those one at a time, because they're they do have a large hitbox on their feet. Any sort of melee minion in this room, you can just kite to this lower step, and you should be completely safe. Now, just one last tactic on the hellbat. I find that it helps to take a little baby step backward right before it hits your shield every single time if you're using the shield strat. If you come in from the opposite angle, that lower bat, you can snipe through a sliver. You can barely see it right when you walk into the room. You'll see what I'm talking about if you come in on the opposite side, because the room is parallel, and he will get stuck like in that window to the bottom left of that giant goat skull, and you can just snipe him out from there. The right side window does not work to trap him. You can see here, I'm not talking about it too much because it's pretty obvious what we're doing. This bottom step is the step where everything will pathfind to you through the blood below, so we can just like very safely kite everything over here. As long as you stay in hit distance of an enemy, they'll keep trying to hit you, even if you're in a spot that they should be trying to pathfind to you to. So he got confused for a second there. He was like, do I hit him? Do I run around? Well, he just kind of got confused there. So we're going to sit on the lower step, so he just chills right there. And I'm trying to show like the melee strats, but I'm not a melee techer. That's fine. You can also fight this guy straight, basically just by ducking and hugging to the bottom left every time he swings. And that's also very safe. Just like getting face to face with him, ducking and hugging his left side, strafing left every time he swings. It works to dodge both attacks, like even if he's swinging left or if he's swinging right. But I'm just a big cheeser. I like doing everything the safe way, so I just opt to be very safe about this. If you get some verticality above him, he will do that backward lean every time he does the top right to bottom left attack. I think that's something that the devs added to prevent like cheesing from above, but it doesn't work too well as long as you just jump and then crouch. He usually can't, well, he'll never hit you really, as long as you get the timing right. Anyway, once the centaur is down, there's just that one demon bat in the back of the room, and I would recommend just clearing the enemies on one side of the room in here, because if I go down that other step, I believe there's one more foot minion, and he's just not worth fighting. You either exit the side that had the death heads, like that inner corner that had the death heads, and there's 2 more dogs over there, which you can kite one at a time back to the step, or you can fight them both at the same time, which I really like doing, and you can catch that on my live stream anytime you want. Anyway, if you have a lockpick, or you're a lockpick rogue, or you have the flute song of unlocking, you can go ahead and unlock that golden chest right there, and that's how we gain access to that, virtually free. With lots of cheese, cheese it up like some cheesy nachos or a gordita or a chalupa, whatever your choice of, cheesy food is. I like Mexican food, not gonna lie. Anyway, that's a style in fighter. We basically 0 to hero it, gain access to a golden chest, even though we weren't able to unlock it per se. But yeah, if you liked the video or you learned anything, like and subscribe down below. If you have any strats that differ from the strats I showed here, please share them in the comments below, and we can learn and grow as a community together. And yeah, other than that, I hope you all have a lovely day. Good luck and Godspeed, adventurers.